Welcome to my channel. Subscribe and enjoy my new stories every day. I had always believed honesty was the bedrock of our marriage. Amanda, with her clear, trusting eyes and open laughter, seemed the epitome of sincerity. So, the day I received that fateful text from Jeff, a coworker, it felt as if the ground beneath me shifted. "Hey man, saw Amanda downtown with some guy. Didn't look like just friends. Thought you should know." The words blazed across the screen, igniting a sickening churn in my stomach. My first instinct was to dismiss it as a mistake. Amanda? It couldn't be. We shared everything, or so I thought. The notion of her with someone else seemed as absurd as the sky falling. However, doubt is a persistent creature. It gnawed at me through hours of pretense, through forced smiles and mundane exchanges about our days. That evening, as Amanda chatted animatedly about her work, the space between us felt cluttered with unspoken words. Finally, I couldn't bear the weight of silence. "Amanda, did you go out with someone today?" Her laughter faltered, and she eyed me curiously. "I had lunch with Maggie from accounting." "Why do you ask?" "It's just." I hesitated, the words heavy on my tongue. "Jeff texted me. He said he saw you with some guy downtown." The change in her was immediate and profound. Her face closed off, the warmth in her eyes replaced by a frosty veneer. "So, you're spying on me now? Checking up through your friends?" "That's not it, Amanda. I started, but she cut me off. You should trust me, Mark. I can't believe you'd think so low of me." I reached out, but she pulled away, her body language screaming betrayal. That night, Amanda turned away from me in bed, a silent wall of resentment built between us. Her reaction, so disproportionate to my cautious inquiry, planted seeds of suspicion where I'd hoped for reassurance. The next day was a blur of numbed routine. I left work early, driven by a gnawing need for the truth. As I parked across the street from her office at dusk, the weight of my decision pressed down on me. This isn't me, I thought. But then, who was Amanda if not the woman I trusted? Minutes ticked by until she appeared. She was not alone. A man met her at the curb, casual in demeanor. They shared a laugh, too intimate, too private. My heart thudded painfully against my ribs as they got into his car. I followed at a distance as they drove out of town, towards the wooded outskirts. The setting sun cast long shadows over my thoughts, darkening with the deepening betrayal. They parked in an isolated spot, the car hidden by thick foliage. Through the trees, I witnessed the betrayal with my own eyes, their eager hands, the undeniable intimacy. The cold clarity of the scene before me was a stark contrast to the chaos inside me. Betrayal morphed into resolve. Amanda had shattered the illusion of our perfect life with her duplicity. As I drove back home, the pieces of a plan began to form in my mind. Revenge, cold and calculated, seemed the only path left to restore my broken pride. By the time I turned the key in our front door, the man I was had irrevocably changed. Amanda's deceit had not only broken our vows but had rewritten our future. I was determined to act, to ensure they both regretted the day they underestimated my resolve to protect what was mine. The morning after witnessing Amanda's betrayal was the coldest dawn of my life. My resolve had set like concrete in my veins, hard and unyielding. Yet, facing her over breakfast, feigning normalcy while my heart seethed with the knowledge of her infidelity, was a performance worthy of the stage. "Good morning," Amanda chirped, as if our life hadn't fractured under the weight of her secrets. She poured coffee with a steady hand, unaware of the storm brewing across the table. "Morning," I replied, my voice a controlled calm. "Sleep well?" Like a baby, she smiled, oblivious to the tightening of my jaw. "What about you? You seem a bit off." "Just didn't sleep well," I muttered, swirling the coffee, watching it turn like dark, bitter thoughts. The plan I'd concocted overnight was simple but devastating. It required precision, and for that, I needed information. As Amanda left for work, kissing my cheek with the ease of the guiltless, I began my day differently. I called in sick at work and drove to a local tech store. "I need the best surveillance equipment you've got," I told the clerk, a young guy who nodded with a mix of understanding and caution. Cameras, audio bugs, and a GPS tracker. Later, I was equipped. The first part of my plan was to gather undeniable evidence. As much as the betrayal stung, I knew it would sting her more to be caught unequivocally. By midday, I was discreetly wiring her car with the GPS tracker and setting up cameras in our living room. The tech blended seamlessly into our decor, invisible to an unsuspecting eye. The preparation was meticulous, revenge needed to be perfect, surgical. Later, as the afternoon waned into evening, I monitored the GPS tracker's movements on my laptop. The signal moved steadily, heading towards the same secluded spot as the day before. My grip tightened around the phone, knuckles whitening, as I made the most challenging call of my life. "Meet me at the Rusty Anchor tonight at 8. We need to talk," I texted Jeff, the bearer of bad news, now a reluctant ally in my plan. At the bar, under dim lights and the hum of muted conversations, I laid out the situation to Jeff, whose eyes widened with every word. "I can't believe Amanda would," he trailed off, shaking his head. "What do you need from me?" "I need you to be my alibi," I said, my voice low. "And if you can, keep an eye on her at work. Anything odd, I want to know." "You got it, man," Jeff nodded, the gravity of the request cementing a new, somber bond between us. By the time Amanda returned home, the evidence was compiling on my hard drive: videos, GPS logs, timestamps. Her cheerful greeting as she entered felt like a slap. "Hey, love. Making dinner tonight?" she asked, hanging her keys by the door, unaware of the digital eyes that followed her every move. "Sure," I responded, watching her through a lens of cold detachment. "Let's have a nice evening." As she went to change, I reviewed the footage, each frame a confirmation, each audio clip a verdict. The evidence was irrefutable, and with it, the foundation of my revenge solidified. Amanda, still humming from the other room, had no idea that the man she had married was gone, replaced by a stranger driven by retribution. The storm had gathered, soon, it would break, washing away the lies and leaving the stark truth exposed in its wake. The next few days were a masterclass in restraint and subterfuge. As Amanda went about her daily routines, I watched the collected footage, each clip a stinging reaffirmation of her duplicity. My plan needed one final, crushing blow to be complete, and that required confronting her, but on my terms, at the right moment. Thursday evening provided that moment. The GPS tracker showed Amanda's car parked at the usual secluded spot again. This time, I didn't just watch the screen, I decided it was time to confront her in the act. Armed with a printed stack of the most damning video stills and GPS data, I drove to the location. The chilling evening air bit at my skin as I approached the familiar car, parked under the shadowy embrace of the woods. The muffled sounds of laughter seeped out from the fogged windows. My heart hammered against my ribs, not in fear but in a surge of adrenaline fueled by impending confrontation. I knocked sharply on the window, my other hand firmly holding the evidence. The laughter stopped abruptly, replaced by a shocked silence. Amanda's face appeared at the window, her expression morphing from surprise to horror as she recognized me. She scrambled, visibly flustered, her companion, a man I vaguely recognized from one of her office parties, looking bewildered. "Mark. What, how did you find?" "We need to talk, Amanda. Now." My voice was steel, my stance, unyielding. She nodded, signaling her companion to leave. He exited the car, casting a wary glance my way before disappearing into the darkness. Once we were alone, the air between us thick with betrayal and accusation, I threw the papers onto her lap. "Explain this." Amanda picked up the sheets, her hands trembling as she flipped through them. Each image, each timestamp, was irrefutable evidence of her betrayal. She tried to speak several times, stopping each time as if the words were too heavy to leave her mouth. Finally, she whispered, "I'm so sorry, Mark. I never meant for any of this to happen." "Sorry doesn't cut it," I snapped, the hurt breaking through my composed exterior for a moment. "I trusted you, Amanda. And you threw it all away. Why?" "I don't know, she trailed off, lost, then gathered herself. "I felt distant from you, like you were always busy, always away." He was there, and it just happened. "That's no excuse," I said, my voice hard as stone. "I know," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "What are you going to do?" "I want a divorce, Amanda. I can't look at you and not see this betrayal. I deserve better. We're done here." My declaration was final, leaving no room for negotiation. Amanda nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I understand. I'll do whatever you need for the divorce to go smoothly." As I walked back to my car, the cold somehow felt fitting, a perfect match to the numbness inside. I had come for confrontation, armed with anger and a plan for revenge. Yet, walking away, I felt neither satisfaction nor relief, only the hollow victory of a man who had confirmed the worst about his life partner. The drive home was long and silent, with the night reflecting my turmoil. This chapter of my life was closing, not with the poetic justice of dramatic revenge, but with the stark, painful clarity of irreparable loss. The road ahead would be about rebuilding, about finding what remained of my dignity and self-worth after the storm of betrayal had passed. The final days of my marriage to Amanda were marked by a chilling efficiency. The divorce papers were drawn up with swift precision, our interactions cold and transactional. Yet, as the end drew near, a darker plan took shape in my mind, one that would ensure neither Amanda nor her lover could ever forget the grave mistake of betraying me. I enlisted Jeff's help once more, not just as an alibi but as a participant in the final act of my revenge. "I need one last favor, Jeff," I said over the phone, my voice a low drawl of calculated calm. "Anything, Mark. You know I've got your back." Jeff's tone was hesitant but committed. "I want to set them up, make sure they lose more than just me. I want their careers, their reputations. Everything." Jeff paused, the weight of my words hanging heavy. "That's intense, man. But okay, I'm in. What's the plan?" "Simple," I said. "We expose them publicly. I've got the footage and the photos. You help me send it to their colleagues, their bosses, the local news. Everywhere that hurts." "Damn, Mark. That's harsh. But after what they did to you," Jeff's voice trailed off, a mixture of admiration and fear evident in his tone. We spent the next day executing the plan. Jeff hacked into Amanda's work email, and I crafted the message that would accompany the videos and pictures. It was damning evidence, impossible to explain away as a misunderstanding. By the time we hit send, Amanda and her lover's fates were sealed. The fallout was nuclear. Within hours, the news had spread like wildfire. Her lover lost his job by the afternoon, his reputation in tatters. Amanda faced a disciplinary hearing, her professional life hanging by a thread. But the real confrontation was yet to come. That evening, I went to our once shared home to collect the last of my things. Amanda was there, her face a mask of devastation and fury. She confronted me as I was packing up the last of my photographs. "You destroyed me, Mark," she screamed, her eyes wild with anger and pain. "You destroyed us first," I shot back, my voice steady despite the storm raging in her. "I made a mistake, but you took it to another level. You've ruined everything I worked for." Her voice broke, a mix of anger, regret, and something that sounded painfully like love. "I did what I had to do," I said, turning away from her. "You chose this path when you betrayed me." She stepped closer, her presence charged with raw emotion. I hate you. I regret the day I met you. And I regret the day I trusted you, I replied, my heart hardening against the sorrow in her eyes. We stood there, the air thick with everything that had passed between us. It was clear this was the end of not just our marriage but any semblance of the life we had built together. As I left the house with my last box, a part of me mourned the man I had been before, the man who had loved Amanda unreservedly. But that man was a fool, and he had died the day I saw her with another. Amanda watched from the window as I drove away, her silhouette etched with defeat. The road ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear, there was no redemption, no coming back. Our love had turned to ash, scattered by the winds of betrayal and revenge. In the cruel aftermath, I realized the cost of my revenge was not just her destruction but the erosion of my own soul. Yet, I drove on, away from the ruins of a life that once held promise, towards a future shrouded in the shadow of my actions. The tragedy of our tale was not just the deception but the irrevocable loss of what could have been, a love, a partnership, a future. Instead, there was only the bitter taste of vengeance and the lonely road ahead.